I can't believe this is the end.
I'd like to say a few words. Nintendo Switch, I remember when I first got you. You were everything to me back in the day, and the countless of times I've enjoyed playing on you will not be forgotten.
It's like I could still hear it talking.
Wait! It's as I thought. I can't say goodbye just yet.
Huh? So you don't want to bury it? But it's dead. What are you?
That's not it. I still have a lot in my mind I want to share.
Oh, I see. Well, losing a loved one isn't the easiest thing to handle, so take your time.
Thank you for understanding.
The Nintendo Switch came out on March 3rd, 2017 worldwide. It was the next console after the Wii U and, dare I say, more successful.
Why are you daring to say that? It's a fact.
I just wanted to sound dramatic. Also, let's be respectful, please.
Oh, right. These are the final words towards the Switch. Carry on.
I'm not sure how it was when the Wii U first came out, but I know with the Switch, it was sold out for quite a while before it was finally able to be mass produced. That sounds like a certain recent console. I got mine in May, so I wasn't really able to be there at launch. But that's fine, because at that point, there were more games compared to at launch. The Switch had 2 other models coming out later in its life, which gave people more options to what type of Switch they would want. By the end of the Switch's time, it ended up being the 3rd most sold console of all time, beating the Game Boy, PlayStation 4 and 1, and even the Wii. It's not quite good enough to beat out the DS though. I said end of Switch's time as if it's done being sold. Maybe if you're watching this in the future, that would be true.
There it is again. I heard its voice.
Well, why don't we remember its hardware? Maybe that will take the voices off your head.
Okay, I'll do this one.
So Eeb has made many videos talking about the Switch in the past, and this will more or less be repeating some of the things he said in those videos. The Nintendo Switch was a console of all time. If it wasn't for this console, tell me with a straight face that 90% of the imitations from other companies would still exist.
Well, the Neo Geo X exists.
Yes, and the PSP and the PS Vita. Wait, you only know that because of Sakurai's presentation. Wait, these consoles don't have anything in common.
Whoa there, calm down.
How are you telling me to calm down when you said something so stupid?
What did you just say?
Nothing. I'll continue now.
That's what I thought.
I'm sure you know by now that the Nintendo Switch is both a home console and a handheld console. This console did something the Wii U tried doing but succeeded by doing it. People literally couldn't imagine how something like that can work or even look. Remember when the Nintendo NX is all we had to go by?
Wait, aren't you a clone? When exactly were you made?
Way after the Switch. Don't worry about it.
You have the option to play it exactly like a handheld. Make it stand up as if it's a mini monitor, or dock it into the dock, which allows you to play it on a monitor. If you play it on the dock, you will get the full capability of the console, most likely due to the power supply. But if it's undocked, it will be a bit weaker, only allowing the games to be played at 720p resolution. Remember when that was considered HD? The console initially comes with a pair of controllers called the Joy-Cons. These are attachable to the console, which is what allows you to play it in handheld mode. However, in terms of controllers, not only are they small to be even called comfortable, but they also drift, ultimately making this controller very annoying to use. However, at the time, these were some of the coolest controllers you would ever see. Although they are also one of the most expensive controllers you can buy, the fact that this was nothing like a traditional controller is one of the charming points that swayed a lot of people in getting a Switch. The Switch had other versions come out throughout its time. The first new version was the Nintendo Switch Lite. I remember when this version was heavily rumored and people were speculating like crazy. You know, the last time Nintendo made a Lite console like this was the DS Lite?
Actually, it would technically be a 2DS since it's a lesser 3DS.
Okay, nerd.
Nerd, huh? Okay, I'll keep that in mind.
Uh-oh.
The Switch Lite came out in 2019 and is meant to be a cheaper alternative to the Switch. This isn't like the PlayStation Slim models where they are the same console just a bit less powerful. It's actually just the same console without the ability to dock it, but an extension, you can't detach the controllers, meaning this is purely handheld. So if you like playing it on handheld mode, this is a good console for you. But if that's not your cup of tea, then you have the Nintendo Switch OLED, which came out in 2021. Again, this isn't like a PlayStation Pro model where it's more powerful. It's just a bit more improved in very minor aspects while being a bit more improved because of that. This version has a bigger screen for its undocked mode, a better stand for tabletop mode, and as the name suggests, it has an OLED screen, so this would mainly be for people who play on the go or undocked. However, something that may sway people to buy this is the fact that the dock has an Ethernet adapter in it. After who knows how long, Nintendo finally added a built-in adapter. Even the PS2 had one, you know. There was also another version of the Switch that came out with a better battery life later on, and that's mainly probably due to the fact that the console became a bit cheaper to produce. So that allowed them to spend a bit more on the battery, I guess. I don't know. But if you bought the Switch after the second year, I think, you probably have a better battery life version of the console. We have the 1-year version since Ebe got it in May of the release year. This console's hardware aspect is most likely a reason people would want to buy it. It's unlike any console in the market, and that uniqueness kind of reflects its exclusivity too with its games the console would have and stuff. What the console did was what the Wii did years ago. And if the Wii U wasn't such a mess of a console with its advertising and its very odd gamepad, that console could have also been as successful as the Switch.
Sorry. Hey, let's move on to software. Okay, then I'll talk about this.
The Nintendo Switch was the console that finally brought Nintendo to the modern era of gaming. Its software is enough of an indicator for that. When you first start the console after all the setting up, you're brought to a much sleeker home menu compared to the past consoles. Long gone are the glossy icons, and here comes the minimal designs. Depending on who you ask, this is either a great home screen or a terrible one. I would personally call it not the greatest, but it does pretty much everything it needs to do. To this day, there are still no themes, and I'm a little worried about the Switch 2's potential to get themes. The home screen can have over the amount of games that its spaces can allow, and that would ultimately enable the ability to access a menu with all the games you have. There are some people who have never seen this menu given the fact that they may only use their Switch for some certain games. In this extra menu, you have the ability to make folders. This addition came pretty late into the Switch's lifespan, but it's a good addition. The menu is where you can access the Nintendo Switch Online tab, the News tab, the Nintendo eShop, the Album, the Game Share tab, and a bunch of configuration stuff. Some of these tabs were added later into the Switch's lifespan, with the Game Share tab being the most recent one. The Nintendo Switch Online tab is a place where you can make a custom profile picture with the points you get from the rewards. Every day or week, I don't know, I never really pay attention to this tab. You get some sort of challenge you're supposed to do, like play the NES online or play a game that has the Nintendo Switch Online features. I can't really show this feature off given that, well, I didn't renew my Nintendo Switch Online membership for certain reasons, so this is old footage from like 4 years ago. This was something added at the heap of the Nintendo Switch Online expansion from Nintendo with the N64 Online and stuff. The news is where you can see recent news of anything Nintendo and anything you're interested in seeing news for. It still gets updates to this day even though the Switch 2 is out. It's most likely due to both of the consoles probably sharing the same exact servers for this. The Album is where you can see any screenshot and videos you've taken. The Game Share tab is a recent addition and allows you to play games hosted by one console. This feature works similarly to the DS download feature from the DS era. Unfortunately, the Nintendo Switch 2 is the only thing that can host the games, and as you can tell, I don't have a Switch 2 to demonstrate this feature with. Now this console's eShop is as controversial as the home menu. First of all, it is so much more dead than the Wii U's. Every time I went on the Wii U or 3DS's eShop, it felt like I was actually going into a store. Music playing, the featured games being right there to look at, the browsing options being so diverse. It was a good time in my opinion. Then when it came down to the Switch's eShop, it was so dull and boring. Did you know the filter feature wasn't even there from the start? There's no music, the UI and presentation is as boring as the home screen. It was just another minimalistic modern day shop. There's no soul in it. There's no desire to keep looking for something. The way things would be mixed in with each other is so bad. There is no specific tab to show you what Nintendo exclusive games exist. There is no good representation of indie games that are beloved. And there is so much shovelware and random games that I really want to know who is buying them. There's even a fair share of not very safe to look at games that there is no filter to stop them from showing up. It is just a huge mess. And don't even get me started on how awful it runs. All in all, this has to be the worst eShop that exists, which is such a shame. It sometimes makes you wonder, how much do they actually care about it? By the way, for some reason, after the Switch 2 came out, a bunch of the icons changed into a different color on the home screen. Also, the eShop is now red. The Nintendo Switch has games. That is something we heard like a million times in one of the Game of the Year shows. I don't remember what year it was. Although the console didn't start off with many games, we ended up getting so many bangers at the end. If you told me we were getting a new Mario and Luigi game on a console, I wouldn't have believed you. But what we got in this console was a bunch of Mario games, 2 open world Zelda games, a new Smash Bros game, a new home console Animal Crossing game, Pikmin 4, Bayonetta 3, a new Metroid game, a bunch of remasters from the Wii U, and so much more. By the way, I only listed the Nintendo games. We have a plethora of third-party games, which is something I can't really say any other Nintendo console could have gotten. Looking back, the Nintendo Switch really did have games, huh? This was a major improvement from the Wii U, and there was something for everyone. Sure, this console has some banger first-party games, but there are a great fair share of third-party games too. I actually have a bunch of fighting games on my Switch because I can play it with my friends whenever I get the chance. So there really is something for everyone here, and it's no wonder this console is so big. Sure, the third-party games aren't as good looking as they would be on other consoles, but the thing is, you're most likely not going to buy a game on the Switch because of its graphics. It's probably because maybe that's your only way to play the game, or maybe you want to play the game on the go. But regardless, the Nintendo Switch has games. The Nintendo Switch has been one of the greatest consoles of all time. The sales numbers show it, the companies that support it explain it, and the fact that it got a sequel console is enough to show the sheer scale of the console. Nintendo has been somewhat forgotten in the Wii U days because it was the Wii U, but this was always a company that can make heavy hitters, and the Nintendo Switch was them showing what happens when they're given the opportunity to cook. You could see many companies scattering to do something similar to the console. Literally, Xbox announced their own portable console not too long ago. PlayStation made a sorry excuse of an attempt. Steam has one, but people don't even use it for Steam games. The official trailer literally shows a Nintendo Switch emulator on there. And other companies that aren't even focusing on the video game market are trying to get a piece of that. But no matter how much they try, they will never get the Nintendo numbers. The Nintendo Switch isn't just meant to be another handheld console. This is a hybrid console. And because of that, its purpose is much more vast than a Steam Deck or whatever other imitation that exists. It will forever be one of my favorite consoles of all time, and I'll remember it for all the good times it's given me.
So that's it, huh? We're going to have to say goodbye to the Switch now.
I guess so. I don't have anything to add, and I'm assuming you don't either.
Well, not really. I guess we'll leave it to you then, Wii U.
Huh? What's wrong?
Wait, you're right. If I get rid of you now, I won't have anything to play on. So we're not getting rid of the Switch?
Nope.
Well, Wii U,
I'm sorry we called you out here on short notice, but we're gonna have to do this another time. So all's well that ends well, I guess.